With that initial configuration now complete on our WSS server, let's take a minute and just kind of explore the interface just a bit before we even get into any of the more hardcore configurations. This is, as I said before, the WSS console here, and this console will be factored towards whatever machine you happen to be plugging it into, which in our case is this machine file 1. Now I kind of stopped the recording and then flipped here to a new clip, in part because this synchronization activity, as you can see here, takes a pretty extended period of time. Now, this is really the second synchronization that we've gone through. The very first one was just to get down all the metadata, essentially what kinds of categories is Microsoft now interested in patching. The second synchronization is for further metadata that is related to the updates themselves. So you can see here that we've completed that synchronization. I can kick off another one here if I wanted to by clicking this link. But over here under the Updates node is where I can take a look at all the updates that we've now downloaded that correspond with Windows Server 2012 R2 as well as Office 2013. One of the hardest parts about WSS is just kind of figuring out some of its quirkiness at the very beginning before you begin to tailor it for your use. You'll notice here that, well, there's not much to look at in our list of all updates. And that's in part because the initial filter that WSS puts on those updates is to give you only those that are unapproved where the status is failed or needed. Now, obviously, you've not approved any updates, so you should be seeing a long list of them. But because we don't have any clients that are currently talking to this server, none of the unapproved updates are actually classified as those that are needed by any of the clients. No clients means no need. So the way in which we can see them all is to actually change the status here from failed or needed to any, to give us a look at the entire, in this case, 955 available updates that exist. Let me also just show you here all those except declined and then refresh the link here so that we can see that long list of possible updates. Now, one of the other kind of quirky ways that WSS behaves that takes a little getting used to is that WSS is not really intended as a solution to have you direct updates to install at a specific time on specific machines. Here in this list of updates, there's no way for me to kind of click on an update and say deploy right now to machines. That's not how WSS works. Rather, when you have a list of possible updates, what you need to do is approve the update by right-clicking the update and choosing Approve. When you approve that update, you're going to approve it for one or more different computer groups. You can see here out of the box, we have the All Computers and the Unassigned Computers groups here. And then once those computers at the client side, once they reach the next interval for checking in with WSS, downloading and installing any updates, it's then and only then that they'll actually complete this process and get the updates downloaded and installed. This somewhat out-of-band approach that WSS uses is at the same time its biggest strength and also one of the hardest things about using it, because most of us are used to sort of pointing at a server and saying, you update yourself now. Well, that's not exactly how this works here with WSS. We'll talk in a minute about the different kinds of groups and how you can assign servers and desktops into different groups. But there is another thing that we really need to discuss before we even get our agents or our clients installed. That has to do with this other column here that is called Installed as opposed to Not Applicable. Now, another of the ways that WSS works is that clients will, of their own accord, go through scanning themselves using the metadata here from this WSS server to try to figure out whether or not an update is actually applicable to that client or not. If the update is not applicable, as you can imagine, you kind of want to ignore that update. And so here in just a minute, as we start attaching clients here into our WSS interface, you'll see this list of installed or not applicable increase from 0% for various patches to some other number. The idea here is that the filtering gives you the abilities to identify very easily those updates that, for example, you have not specifically approved against those updates that are either failed on a client or are needed by a client. Again, back to this, as you can see, we don't have any updates here, which means that there are no updates that require our attention to specifically approve them for needy clients, nor are there any updates that have failed for one reason or another on those clients that have attached. So again, you kind of got to wrap your brain around why this is working in the way that it is. But when you start thinking about 1,000 different updates, or even many thousands of updates, the approach that Microsoft is using really helps target you down on the specific updates that your clients are telling you that they require without having to have you parse the entire list at every moment.